All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So, what I'm going to call this podcast is Why Do You Dress the Way You Dress? So, if you don't like anything about fashion or clothes or wardrobe or anything in that nature, this podcast probably isn't going to be for you. But if you are looking to maybe kind of improve on your wardrobe or take a different direction entirely on your identity, learn a little bit about, I guess you could say, different styles of clothes, this may be the podcast for you. And if you know anything about me, I try to help a lot of men with their identity, which includes clothing. And I don't think a lot of people, men or women, realize the impact that clothing and accessories has on their lives. Yeah, they totally underestimate it. But that's a kind of another thing. And I've done podcasts and YouTube videos on many different things when it comes to clothing and wardrobes and how to save money when shopping, along with how to find the right clothes for you. Not only that fit correctly, but the right colors. But in this kind of podcast, what I want to do is kind of just address something very simple, like I just asked previously, is why do you dress the way you dress? A lot of guys come to me and ask me, they want to change up certain things, but they don't know what to do. They don't know which way to turn. They don't know what type of look they're looking for. They don't know what type of clothes. They're kind of all over the place. They know they want to look different and they want to look better, but they don't know how to go about looking better or where to actually shop maybe, what type of clothes that would look good on them. Again, what colors would look good on them, what styles would look good on them, all these different types of things. Because I think a lot of men and women, actually, I think, again, underestimate the value of when you look a certain way in clothing. Now, if you don't give a shit about the way you look in clothing, I get that as well. What makes me laugh is a lot of people I know that do kind of dress a certain way are always like, I don't give a shit. I just dress the way I want to dress. I don't care how I look and all these different types of things. I get it. But I do think they're kind of bullshitting because that's kind of what they represent. Because the reality is, nobody can walk around naked. I don't give a shit who you are, unless maybe you live in a resort or one of those, those areas where you can walk around naked all day, so I stand corrected. But for the most part, most of us do not walk around naked. We wear many different outfits throughout the day or throughout the week, throughout the years, right? We also dress differently according to what type of situation we're in. But what I, again, want to address is, why do you kind of do what you do? Why do you kind of shop the way you shop? Why did you end up picking out the clothes you picked out that you think work best for you? Just how did you create your own style? And I don't think a lot of people ask themselves that question. And I would say most likely, for a lot of people, they were programmed in a certain family that made them dress a certain way, for starters. The other thing is the environment they were in, besides just their family, the area. So a lot of times, I'll just give you a heads up on me. I grew up, bouncing between the city of Chicago, which was kind of a different look, when you dress in the city. And then my mother moved to a very nice suburb, which is very preppy, let's just say. And it was funny, and I've said this before, when I was in the city, they called me a preppy kid. When I was in the preppy area, they called me a city kid. And then I started to go to summer school in Florida, and the Florida kids would call me the Chicago guy, and in Chicago sometimes they'd call me a Florida kid. It sounds crazy, but whatever. And the one thing that I loved doing more than anything was dressing different than kind of the environment I was in. So I kind of flipped it a lot of times. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I'm in Chicago, of course, it's cold. In the city, I dressed very urban, I guess you could say. But a lot of times I would also dress in preppy clothes in that environment. And then I'd be in the suburbs in a preppy area, and I would dress kind of like a city slicker as well. And then even in Florida, a lot of times I looked like a Chicago guy or a New York guy. I wouldn't dress like everybody else dressed in Florida. And then a lot of times, especially in high school, I'd buy a lot of clothes in Florida, the colors and brightness and even all these different things. I'd bring them to Chicago, and I would wear those, and nobody else had those clothes. So I kind of liked standing out, and I still to this day, you never know what I'm going to wear. I just like wearing all different types of clothes. You will literally see me one day dressed one way, the next day entirely different, then the next day entirely different. And I just like that. And I know why I dress the way I dress. But I don't think a lot of people understand why they dress the way they dress. I also think they don't realize the impact that it has on their moods a lot of times. So back to you growing up at a certain area, if you grew up, and I've had cousins. Let's just put it this way. I have a massive family, so all these different not only environments and family, but like the friends. Some liked rock and roll, so all of a sudden a lot of them thought, oh, I got to dress like a rock and roll guy. You know what I mean? Jeans, a lot of rock and roll shirts, a lot of dark denim or blue and black and all that type of stuff, which is understandable. That's kind of the culture that they gravitated towards, and that's kind of how they want to look and where they feel most comfortable. It's understandable. And then, I had other family members, again, that were very athletic, that dressed, a lot of times in clothes that are, more athletic wear driven. And still to this day, I have a lot of family members now that are involved with being trainers in many different industries, working at gyms or personal trainers or physical therapists, all these different types of things. And they dress a certain way because that's that lifestyle. I have some other family members still involved with fashion to a certain degree, and they dress that way. I have a cousin that's like in the punk scene or rock and roll still scene, back to that in LA with the tats, and he's a beast, and he dresses that way. And then I have a lot of friends from New York that still kind of dress like New Yorkers. And then obviously I live in Florida, so I have a lot of people that look, especially my age, middle-aged guys, that dress like golfers. Let's just put it that way. And I also have a lot of friends that fish, so they kind of dress like fishing kind of like guys. And they kind of know, again, why they dress the way they dress, because it's kind of a part of their identity and it's a part of what they do, right? And that goes for work as well. A lot of us, if you're an accountant, you probably dress a certain way, and if you're a lawyer, doesn't mean you're always going to be in a monkey suit or a sport coat or, but usually a lot of times you will still kind of be dressed up and dress a certain way. But when it comes to you, regardless what the hell you're doing, really, why do you dress the way you dress? Are you actually also like, what you're wearing, is it inspiring you? Is it making you feel better? Is it making you feel better when you look in the mirror? Is it make you feel better when you go out and get attention? These are all things that are legit. I think a lot of people pretend they don't care about the way they look through, again, their clothing or their body. But deep down inside, they do. They really do. And I do think some of us also get lost because we, say for instance, I gained a lot of weight when I was younger, right? So then I all of a sudden dressed like a heavy guy, and I had to a certain degree, but there really still wasn't rules, and I would break a lot of them too. I would find clothes, even if it was preppy clothes, big sweaters, or but I was like a 3, 4X, so I couldn't find a lot of clothes that I liked that fit me. So then before you know it, I'm kind of wearing big clothes, not only fitness wear, but also just having to go to big and tall. I'm finding a lot of clothes I didn't like the way they looked. A lot of coats, oversized, I call them kind of Cuban shirts, like the Cubans wear, even a lot of Italians, the white button-ups, kind of to hide the belly and all that shit. And again, I just thought, too, that was part of my identity. And after a while, I said, why am I dressing like this? Not only that, why am I so heavy? I like being big and muscular still to this day. But I also just didn't feel good. And I also, again, did not like the way I looked after a certain amount of time. As much as I love being big, but then after a while, I just kind of was like, this is just taking a major toll on me. And what I figured was 2 things were happening. One is I used to always buy bigger clothes so I can always grow into them and get bigger and bigger. And I talk about that. And at the same time, I would feel better if I kept going up in sizes in clothes. So both of those things were kind of working for me as I was getting bigger. I was 220, 230, 240, 250 almost. Then it flipped. I wanted to go the other way. Because each few months, I took my time losing weight, but I realized, wow, every 10 pounds I was losing, I had to buy clothes that were smaller to fit in now, which kind of deflated me a little because I'm like, wow, I'm getting smaller. But I really started to feel better, and I definitely liked the way I looked more and more. I also like going back to being able to wear a lot of different style clothes compared to when I was heavier. So the reason I really did this podcast and giving you all these explanations is because I just wanted to kind of go through things that I went through, but you may be going through them too. And, you may want to, again, change the way you dress or just try different styles. I'm all about experimenting, and I think most people are afraid to experiment. They kind of get locked on certain brands, not for years, for decades, man, especially men. And a lot of times you just also may outgrow a look. And I see this I had a podcast today, and we talked about a lot of guys that went to college, and they kind of still dress like they're in college through their 20s, into their 30s. Nothing wrong with that. Button up, maybe long sleeve shirt, maybe polo style shirts, or maybe just a certain look, same blue jeans or same whatever. And they never kind of evolve, or they're afraid to evolve because then they may think, oh my God, I'm going to dress this way. People are going to think I'm older. I want to dress to look younger, and I get all that stuff. And you can do whatever you want to do. Just make sure the way you are dressing, you're happy with it. And if you don't have money to buy a lot of different style clothes, I get it as well. If you want to check out my YouTubes or some of my podcasts, I talk a lot about how to, really be a savvy shopper when it comes to buying clothes and not being taken advantage of. And that includes accessories as well. So yeah, I just ask yourself that question, why do you dress the way you dress? And also, I should say, do you like the way you dress? I don't think a lot of people necessarily do, but they just afraid to ask for help, or they're afraid to go into a mall and go into a store because they feel like the sales associate or the manager or GM or whoever's going to oversell them. They're going to spend too much money. They may have shopper remorse issues, all these things. But, figure all those things out. If you got any questions or comments, hit me up. I can go on forever regarding these type of things. But, yeah, just kind of figure out, why do you dress the way you dress. If you love the way you dress, awesome. But if you don't, it may be time to make changes. And the only way you're going to make changes is, again, by experimenting. And don't think, I will definitely wrap it up with this, don't think you'll look foolish sometimes in things that you said other people looked foolish in. I know that sounds kind of weird. But a lot of times we make fun of people. You're like, oh my God, I would never dress like that, or I would never wear that color, I would never wear that outfit. And then you get older. Or it doesn't even mean that you're older, but then all of a sudden you kind of like it. And you're like, man, I never really liked formal wear, but now I kind of dig it. Or, God, athletic wear, who the hell would wear that? I'm not no jock, but you're kind of looking at stuff. It could be certain brands and being like, wow, that looks really comfortable. I can see myself wearing that. Go do it. Forget about what you said in the past. Forget about what you felt in the past. Go try it out. At least go to the store and try it on. All right? All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. You want to know more, you can check me out at masteringselfconfidence.com or richcelenza.com.